And good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Real Talks, everybody. My name is David Steele. I'm happy to be with you today. So, um, anybody who comes in here, just let me know if the audio is okay. So, we have a conclusion to the saga of Paramount, WB, and Netflix. Finally, after all these months, after all of the going back and forth, after all of the times Paramount tried to acquire WB and Netflix just said, "Yeah, I'm done." And it just, on the surface, Netflix is just, I can't stand it personally. I'll never get Netflix, but that's me. But this is a perfect indicator of why Netflix is who they are, a streamer and everything else. So what I'm going to get into today, guys, is a couple of things. First and foremost, okay, I'm going to read the statement from WB, or not WB, I'm sorry, Netflix. I'm going to touch upon the actual THR article. Okay, most of it's a statement, but there are some tidbits in there I want to go over. And then, as the thumbnail said, guys, the bad guys won. I mean, there were no winners here. Let's put it that way, okay? Whether it was Netflix, or whether it was Paramount, or whether it was Warner Brothers, nobody wins here. So I want to go through all that. So first and foremost, if you're not familiar with the channel, okay, quickly, I talk about movies, the business. I do interviews on occasion, and I haven't been on for a while, so this is my first stream of 2026. I've got another one coming up at the end of next week. Okay, let's dive into it. So this is going to be, what I'm going to show you guys first, okay, is the THR article. And I'm going to read portions of it, then I'm going to go do the Netflix statement, okay? So this is the statement. This is the article by THR. In a stunning twist, Netflix is declining to raise its bid, positioning David Ellison, who is the CEO of Paramount, as the winner of the battle in the fabled studio. Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters released a statement Thursday, which outlining their decision, which I'll get into in a couple minutes, namely that the deal is, quote, no longer financially attractive. And it was, quote, always a nice have, but not the right price. And it says the transaction, okay, so it basically goes on, and most of this is the statement. And I'm going to read that in full in just a minute. Okay. So actually, I'll tell you what, let's do the statement right now, and then we'll come back to this. Okay. So basically it says, let's put this full screen for you guys so you can read this. Okay. Netflix today announced that it declined to raise its offer. That received notice from Warner Brothers WBD that the board of directors has determined that Paramount's Skydance latest proposal constitute a, quote, superior proposal under the terms of WB's existing merger agreement with Netflix. Netflix has issued the following statement in response, and the CEO. The transaction we negotiated would have been created a shareholders' value with a clear path to regulatory approval. However, we've always been disciplined, and the price required to match Skydance's later offer, the deal is no longer financially attractive. Now you got to understand, guys. So we're declining to match the offer. So you got to understand, guys, okay, that when they made a bid, they put out a huge bid to begin with, okay? And Paramount had just come back again and again and again. And it was basically saying, listen, Warner Brothers is basically saying, look, we don't want this deal. We want Netflix's deal because of the shareholders' price and everything else. Warner WB is a class act world-class organization. And we want to thank David Zaslav, Gunner, who's the CFO, okay, Bruce Campbell, Brad Singer, and the WB board for running a fair and rigorous process. We believe we would have been strong stewards for WB's iconic brands, and our deal would have strengthened the entertainment industry and preserved and created more production jobs in the United States. But this transaction was always a, quote, nice to have at the right price and not a must to have. Now, look how they frame that, guys. They're basically saying, well, if you had picked us, we would have done better. And that's just Netflix in a nutshell, okay? And what they do and how they do it. Next, it's all about them, okay? It's all about them. We would have done this. We would have done that. Netflix's business is healthy, strong, and growing organically, powered by our slate and best-in-class streaming service. This year, we'll invest approximately $20 billion in quality films and series, and we'll be expanding our entertainment offering. So basically, it's saying, guys, that, hey, look, we're rich enough as it is. We have all this money. And they're going to even get more money here, and I'm going to touch on that in a minute. Consistent with our capital allocation policy, we'll also resume our share repurchase program. We'll continue to do what we've done for 20 years as a public company, delight our members, and much, much more. Okay, so let's basically what that's doing, okay, is they're talking about themselves. We would have done better, okay? We would have made this a much better thing than what it needs to be. Now here, it just sounds like it's sour grapes. And the other thing it sounds like, okay, is that at the end of the day, Netflix had no intention, zero intention of buying WB. None. All they wanted to do was raise the price. That's all they wanted to do. Okay. And that in itself is important. Okay. Because they came in, they wanted to, they made Paramount pay more for it. Okay. When they didn't have to. And now they have 72 hours to actually match the offer, but clearly they're not going to. And there's no winners here. Now, here's the other thing. And I want to try and bring this back up. Let me bring this back up, the Hollywood Reporter, because there's a couple of things here that are very important. So basically, it gives a statement, okay? When Netflix out, Paramount's latest bid is almost a sure thing and will get adopted by the WB board, which determined earlier Thursday that it was, quote, superior proposal, end quote, to Netflix's deal. Netflix is a great company, and throughout the process, Ted, Greg, the higher-ups, and everyone else, that there have been extraordinary partners to us. We wish them the best in the future, said David Zaslav, president and CEO of Warner Brothers. Once our board votes to adopt the Paramount merger, it will create tremendous value for our shareholders. We are excited about the potential for a combined Paramount, Skydance, and Warner Brothers Discovery merger, and can't wait to get started working together and telling stories that move the world. So basically, it goes in and talking about this. But here is the key thing that I'm going to get at here, guys. And this is why I say the bad guys won. Okay? Paramount has also agreed to not only are they going to pay the money to get the WB, but they are also agreeing to pay the $2.8 billion termination fee that Warner Brothers would be required to pay to Netflix to terminate the existing merger agreement. $2.8 billion. And if all goes well, Netflix will be on the receiving end of that $2.8 billion sooner rather than later. So not only do they raise the price, okay, for Paramount to actually do that. Not only has this gone on for 6 or 8 months, but, okay, let's face it, now they've got to shell out an extra $3 billion almost to get what they want to begin with. Okay? So, if all goes into okay, Netflix shares also soared 10% in the after hours trading, okay, when the decision was announced. We're pleased WB board has unanimously affirmed the superior offer, which delivers the shareholders superior value, certainty, and speed closing, President David Ellison said. Now, of course, the Paramount deal is not a sure thing, and United States and European regulators need to formally sign off on it, and state attorneys general will have to give a yes as well. Although politicians are positioning themselves to challenge it, okay, Senator Elizabeth Warren called it an antitrust nightmare on Thursday, with Ellison likely to be called before Congress to discuss it. Now, just because they've said they're going to buy it doesn't mean that this is actually going to go through. And the politics of the deal are sure to come up. Sarandis and Peters, meanwhile, said they will pour cash into the content. Now, this is an interesting little graph, okay? So there's four things here, okay? The first of the four, okay, is the execs Peters and Sarandis and Zaslav go to visit the WB lot. Okay, now on that date there, it was $94.57. Okay, so when Netflix and WB reveal, okay, that it goes, so that, okay, that's the first one. Okay, it's $100 on December 5th. Then on the 16th, it's $94.57. Okay, now we go all the way down. Okay, 3 months later, and it dropped like a rock to $75.86. When Paramount upped the bid to 31 cents a share or $31 a share, and then rose another almost $9 2 weeks later at 84 and change. Here's the thing, okay, and then there's no getting around this. Netflix is just, and that's why, that's why I have put this this as the thumbnail. Okay, the bad guys won here. They really did. Not only because Ellison is going to get Netflix or get Warner Brothers. Okay, not only because Netflix raised the price and is going to make $3 billion on it, but what does this do? And that's the question I'm going to talk about here in just a couple minutes, is what does this do to Hollywood, right? I mean, this is the first merger in a long time, but the first merger we've had of two major studios, okay? I mean, you had 5 studios back in the golden age, the major 5, okay? You had Paramount, you had Warner Brothers, you had Universal, you had MGM, and you had another one. Okay. Now we have 2 of them coming together. What happens now? Okay. And that's the big question. Okay. Day-to-day operations is not going to change, if at all. Dave Ellison is going to fold WB into Paramount Pictures. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. And we'll see what happens with that. If that happens, what happens next? This is the first domino, okay, of everything. This is the first domino of everything, okay? And the other thing, too, is what makes the Netflix want to go after another studio? Do you know what I mean? That's something else to keep in mind too. And I think so. Where do we go from here? And I've been thinking about this over the last week, week and a half. Okay. Couple of things. Number one, okay, is Hollywood dead? Is movie theaters dead? And I love listening to Matt Jarbo and his commentary on it, and he is right about a lot of stuff. Okay, but there are a couple things that can be done to re-up it. Okay, Netflix could go after Universal or Sony, but I can't see that. Okay, only because it's going to be hard enough for them to get this. Congress will never allow a monopoly like that, ever, ever. Hollywood is not dead at all. Well, it's dying. Hollywood isn't dead, but movie theaters are dying. That is the major thing here in America. Okay, and you talk about affordability, you talk about the dollar. We've gone to a subscription-based service, whether it's AMC or Regal or whatever you want to do. Okay, and the other thing too is the way I think that you need to bring theaters back. Okay, there's a couple of things. First and foremost, Hollywood needs to go. You're always going to have your IPs, always. Your Fast and Furious, your Mission Impossible, your IPs, whatever it's going to be. But for the most part, Hollywood needs to begin making films that are in between $50 to $90 million. Okay, low budget. This is why Sinners. Okay, and I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. Do you think Ryan Coogler, James Gunn, Pam are going to leave? Well, I don't. Coogler's not going to leave. Okay, James Gunn. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, this is day one of it, and Mike and Pam have dealt with a lot. Okay, so it's too early to tell. To your point, Kevin, I think give it a month or two. Okay, I think that. But here's the thing: Hollywood needs to make movies that are in between $40 to $90 million, and I say 40 because it's still a large number. And Sinners is a perfect example because it wasn't made for a lot of money. I think it was made for like $80 or $90 million, and it was a huge hit. Okay. Now, forget about the Academy Awards for a minute and all the nominations it got and everything else. It was just still a huge success for it. That being said, okay, I think that if you can make movies like that and have it be successful, you're going to get more people to go to the theater. Now, as I said, you're always going to have the IPs, okay, but you have to have a balance. You can't have one and not the other. That's the first thing. The second thing is the studios have to stop taking as much money as they are. Okay, so when you buy a movie ticket, okay, let's say it's $16, and they work out the contractual things, and what ends up happening is, let's say a theater only gets a quarter of that, so it's a 70-25 split. The studio will get 75% of that, or $12, and the theater will get the other $4, which if the movies aren't doing well, you're talking about overhead. You got to pay your employees, food, a bunch of other things. Okay, so that's a way to get them back into the theater. The other thing too is, and I don't know how logistically it would work, but you put older films back in the theater. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about not in the 1950s or 60s. I'm talking about like 1980s films. Okay, you try to cut a deal with the studios to say, hey, look, we want to put this back in the theater. Okay, we'll give you this amount. Okay, not as an anniversary thing. Okay, but just in general. If you have a 6 theater studio or a 6 theater movie theater, have two of them run films from the 80s and 90s. Okay, you know, or I mean, and just consistently do it. You change it up once a week, okay, and you do only the great films. And people that missed, I mean, for example, I never got to see Iron Man in the theater or The Dark Knight. I'd love to go see this in the theater. I think that would be awesome. Okay, it's a completely different experience. Okay, I mean, there's a difference between sitting in front of your television with a huge surround sound system and then in a movie theater. That's a thought too. And yes, they have these $5 bargain, surprise Mondays and whatever else, but you don't know what it is. If you know what it is, and you go, "Oh, I would love to go see The Dark Knight in theaters," people go. Now, it's a matter of how much is the studio going to take. That's the thing. So that's the second thing. Okay. So low budget films, mid budget films, studios not taking as much, running older films from, let's say, 20 years ago. Okay, even 2000. Put Gladiator back in the theater. Okay, that just turned 25 last year. I mean, those people that haven't seen it in a theater would be like, "Yeah, I'd love to go see it." Okay, so those three things are, and then you have other things. Okay, salaries and everything else. But I think that Netflix is just, I can't stand Netflix. Whether it was what they did with Glass Onion a couple of years back with, only keeping it in theaters for a week and then coming out and saying, "Well, we're not part of the theatrical," okay, which is crap, okay? Or this, jacking up the price so Paramount's got to pay more. And by the way, they're going to be paying $3 billion to Netflix, okay? It's just, this is, and then the question is, where do we go from here as far as Hollywood? Studios have to figure out what is the best method, best way to make the most money from movies. It's that simple. And those movies have to gross enough because let's face it, all these movies that we see here in the States, they're made for overseas. They're made for overseas. It's that simple. In a perfect world, if you have a movie that's, let's say, $100 million, it's got to make 300 to break even with marketing, salaries, everything else. Okay. In a perfect world, you want 150 here in the United States and 150 overseas. Usually that's 2 to 1. Usually it does more overseas. Okay. China, Japan, Germany, UK, France, all of Italy, all of these European cities than here in the United States. And because they're not as critical of films as we are here. If there's one little hair out of place, people go, "No, that's wrong," instead of enjoying the film. Okay? And I think we've gotten away from that. The visceral hate for some of these fandoms and everything else is so bad that makes you not even want to go to the movies. And it's so expensive. Okay? It's terrible. So I think that, as I said, the four things that they need, at least three things they need to do. Number one, studios need to take less. Number two, they need to, dedicate 2 theaters specifically for older films from the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, 2010s. Bring in more, people that haven't seen, whether it's The Dark Knight or The Social Network or, Few Good Men or whatever it is. Okay? Just those theaters. Okay? And number 3, studios need to take less from, when they have the movie done. Otherwise, in 5 or 10 years, we're not going to have movie theaters. It's that simple. It's so unaffordable right now to go to a movie, even if you have a pass. Okay, a pass. When I used to pay $27 a month in Los Angeles for a month. Now, yeah, I could go see. I mean, I live right down the street from a theater here, and it's $16 to go see a movie. Now, couple that popcorn, a drink, okay, and any little tidbit you want to get, and now you're talking about $40, $50, especially if you've got kids. Okay, it's so expensive. It used to be affordable. It's not affordable. The number one question is this: at the end of the day, of all those options I just gave, the number one question is this: how do we get butts back in movie theater seats? That's the question that should be asked. And once that question's asked, and you give ideas, as I said, studio's not taking as much, lower the price of concessions, have the theaters do that. Once you do that, you're going to see people come back to the theater. Mark my words on that. This year, Paramount acquiring WB, you know, Netflix played everybody. They did. Call it what it is. Netflix played everybody. And so, you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I think that, you know, it's going to be, we're not going to see any major day-to-day stuff. You know, I know Kevin brought up Ryan Coogler and James Gunn. Gunn's contract, I think, is up next year. Okay, we've got Supergirl coming out in May. I think it's June. Okay, you know, Superman didn't do that. It was a $500-600 million movie. Okay, it was really the first one since Man of Steel in 2013. You know, Supergirl was in it for like 5 minutes. It's more of a coming of age thing. It is going to be interesting to see what happens with the whole universe now and what James Gunn does. I mean, he's got Peacemaker, he's got, you know, Supergirl coming out, he's got a Batman, you know. So I don't know. I think it's too early to tell. It's too early to tell. And by the way, most people, unless you own the stock, you're not going to care less. The average moviegoer isn't going to notice anything. It's the insiders, the not me per se, but I'm talking about people that know the business. Okay, the box office and everything else. So that's the way that's going to go. I'll be very curious to see what happens over the next, you know, if Ellison has to testify, and that's something else too. This merger may not go through. If Ellison has to testify and say, and give Congress a good reason why do we think this is not going to be a monopoly? That's going to be fascinating. Because if he has to sit in front of 7 or 8 people, congressional people, and say, hey, listen, here's the reason why. Okay? The other thing I would love to hear from Ted Sarandis. I know we heard from in the statement, but I mean, in all seriousness, why did they drive the price up? No, I understand he's a businessman, so is Zaslav. Okay? But there's no need for this. Right? Why did he deliberately jack up the price? And that's what it is. That's exactly what he did. Why did he deliberately jack up the price to then pull out? You go, yeah, I'm good. because Netflix is never going to change, ever. And, we'll see. This was impromptu, obviously, video. A couple of things as we wind down here. So next week, March 7th, actually, I tweeted this out. So if anybody, first and foremost, I am on Twitter. Okay, it's X, Twitter X, whatever you want to call it. It's all one word. It's going to be Wannabe Rounder. Okay, that's where you can find me. I'm on Twitter X. I already put this out. Nick Zednick, one of the movie critics, film critics. He's from Chicago. He's been on podcasts. He's been on, done a lot of other things. I'm going to have him on, assuming his work schedule plays out. It's a Saturday. And we're going to do top 10 most anticipated films, upcoming films of the rest of the year. Now, look, guys, I know we're in March already. Okay. Next week's going to be March. I get it. You go, why would you not do it in January? I get it. Okay. But everything that's coming out, okay, I have a list I've made. He has a list. It looks pretty similar. We want to talk about that. We'll also touch upon this whole thing. I want to get his thoughts on this whole WB, Paramount merger, and a couple of other things. I had been putting out videos about the top 25 scenes. I am at number 21. You guys can go back on the channel and watch those. Okay, I've done a few of those. I want to actually stream. I'm on number 21 right now. I actually want to stream that. It's Heat. It's a coffee shop scene. So I have there's a whole story behind that and everything else. I want to stream that for you guys because it really makes it, it's worthwhile. It's not only worthwhile, but it's, when you know the story behind it, when you actually watch the movie, it's that much better. And I might even get Nick's input on Heat 2. But, so yeah, we got that going on. I'm not putting out videos or streaming as much as I should. I'm trying to, live life as everybody is. But in all honesty, I want to get back to this. This was something that just, this happened, and I want to start doing this. I want to finish the list. I want to do another. We'll see if I can. We'll do the first. As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, March 1st through 3rd, if I'm available, I always do a perfect movie. Okay, on the first week of every month. That is one of the staples on the channel. Okay, the perfect movie series. If you haven't watched any of them, guys, or if you haven't seen the videos, go back and do that. Check that out. I have an idea what I might do for March. I have a whole list. Aliens is turning 40 this year, guys. So keep that in mind. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I want to get back into this as much as I can. So, but how long will this merger take to complete? It depends. Right now, so it has to go in front of Congress. Okay, so there's something called an antitrust. Okay, and antitrust basically is making sure that there's no monopoly. Okay, so one player or one studio won't just gobble up the other ones like Pac-Man. Okay, so this is why we have a committee and oversight. Okay, and they want to hear from David Ellison. Okay, and say, hey, listen, why should we let this go through? And there's something else I didn't bring up, guys. Okay, thank you for the question. There's something else I didn't bring up, guys, and that is who we have in office right now, and that's Donald Trump. Brendan Carr, the head of the FCC, who's made headlines over the past several months, whether it's Jimmy Kimmel, getting Jimmy Kimmel pulled, whether it's the whole merger with Skydance. Okay, he's in bed with, so to speak, and buddy with the FCC and Trump and everything else. Okay, it's going to be very interesting, and this is once again why I said there are no winners here, guys, and that's something you have to keep in mind. Not only is Paramount showing out more money to get Warner Brothers, Netflix jacked the price up, and Paramount's got to pay an extra $3 billion to take care of the termination, the merger. So, getting back to your question though, how long is this going to take? This is going to take probably, if this gets done by the end of this year, Kevin, I'll be shocked. Okay, I will be shocked because there's a lot of logistics. Okay, a lot of logistics. Now, keep in mind too. Okay, keep in mind too that Netflix is 72 hours. Okay, yes, they put the statement out. This was a nice to have thing or that, but who's to say they don't come back in 24 hours and say, you know what? We reconsider our position. We want to go after Warner Brothers again. Okay, so they have 72 hours. But I think the end of the year. I think the end of the year. And when, the next time you hear about stock prices, Warner Brothers and Paramount, it will be when the merger closes, completely closes. But otherwise, there isn't going to be a big uptick one way or the other. And the other thing too is people don't forget about this. It's not like this is going to dominate. This is with today's news cycle. This is going to dominate, and it has dominated the airwaves. It will dominate the airwaves for the next 24 to 48 hours. By the end of March, people don't forget about it. So, yeah, it's something. These things take time. They take a lot of time because they want to make sure that the person who's acquiring the studio is going to do the right thing. Otherwise, if that happens, they won't go through. And then we're right back to square one. So, yeah, I would say the end of the year, Kevin. So, but yeah. So that is, that's going to do it for me right now. I know this was super short, and I'm still trying to figure things out. Please don't worry about the backdrop. I've been moving and trying to getting things. I want to get a decent studio, but this is how I live right now. Yeah, and I think that once I start to get back into this, I've got a job. I've actually got 2 jobs. And once I get training for the other jobs, I hopefully will be able to stream more, and that way I can bring you guys all this stuff. I want to bring you spoiler cast too this year. There's all these movies I want to go see. I want to do spoiler cast for some. Okay, and so we'll see about that. But okay, guys. So that's gonna do it for me. Anybody who came in here, thank you, even if it was for a short amount of time. If the one thing I would ask, and the ticker says is down there on the bottom, if you want to become a channel member, which by the way, I will put up here because I think that at the end of the day, it's something that is very important, and let's put this up here. Okay, guys. So, quickly, it's going to cost you nothing. 0. And I know I've been rambling on for a while, so I'm going to keep this brief for you guys. So here are the membership prices. For the first month, it's completely free. Okay, completely free. Because I don't want you guys to feel like I'm taking money from you. I want you to look at the content and say, and I'm a, I would not want a YouTuber doing this to me. Giving me a membership and then having, you know, so the first month is completely free, guys. I'm not putting anything behind a paywall, but there are 3 levels: moviegoer, producer, and director. My highest is $10 a month. Okay, you can't even do a streaming service for $10 a month. Okay. The way I compare it is moviegoer. That's like if you go to Starbucks and you get a cup of coffee. It's almost $3, but you're helping me out. Okay. Producer, it's $6 a month. Okay. That's like a gallon of gas in most places in the United States. And $10, as I said, is a streaming service. Okay. And once, I want to do this full time, that's my goal. So, I would love it if you guys became a channel member. And if nothing else, guys, please, please, please hit that like and subscribe button, because this is, I want this to get out to as many people as possible, and that's my goal. And I enjoy doing this. But with all that being said, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. So I will see everybody later. As I said, you can find me on Twitter. Do the 3 things you need to do, guys. Take care of yourself. Be good to yourself. Take care of others. And have a great day. So I'm David Steele, and this has been a special edition of Real Talks.